All right. So the Seahawks win yesterday against the New York Giants at MetLife Stadium, and they've won the last 5 times that they have played there. So I think it's safe to say that the Seahawks like to play at MetLife Stadium, and as a fan, I like when the Seahawks go and play at MetLife Stadium. Now, when this game first started, uh, I was getting really worried, and I'll tell you right now, my heart almost broke on the drive where the Seahawks got down to the red zone, and they had like 11 or 12 tries down there. And when they went for it on fourth and goal, I think when they were at the 1 or 2 yard line, they went for it. And when Russell Wilson passed that ball to Jimmy Graham, and Jimmy had it and dropped it, I was like, "Oh, you got to be kidding me!" I was like, "Graham, you don't get thrown to that often. You got to be able to catch those things." And obviously, when Rawls ended up fumbling and the Giants took it down, and they ended up, I think it was Ingram that Manning threw it to for the touchdown, which was the only points our defense gave up all day. And granted, it wasn't necessarily all of our defense's fault because the Seattle's offense turned it over and gave the Giants great field position for it. And then when the Seahawks were trying to come back after that, Russell Wilson launching the ball deep to Jimmy Graham, and then Jimmy Graham drops that, and you're just like, oh my god, what's going on with Graham? Did he eat popcorn before the game? And then there was another part where we were about to get into field goal range, and it was like a quick, it was a rush up the middle, and Russell Wilson just had to like drop it off to someone. He dropped it off to Rawls, and Rawls, who if he caught it, which he dropped it, if he caught it, he probably could have gained at least like 5 to 10 yards. I'm thinking like 10 yards there. It would have still been fourth down, but it would have gave the Seahawks a lot better field position for a field goal. And it comes out of his hands. And at first, I'm like, oh, you got to be kidding me. The offense is starting to actually get some good play calls here, and now Jimmy Graham and Thomas Rawls are dropping things. And then it's halftime, and it's 7-3, and I'm thinking to myself, okay, the offense hasn't played terrible the first half. It's just there's been obviously drops, key drops out of that. One of them with Jimmy Graham coming in the end zone. And the second half came, and the Seahawks defense still played lights out. I think they held Eli Manning to only like 140 passing yards. They did a great job stopping the Giants defense. And while the Seahawks weren't really able to get a running game of their own going, Russell Wilson came alive, 330 some passing yards for passing, 3 passing touchdowns. Could have been a little bit more, obviously, if it wasn't for the few drops that happened. But I will say this about this game. So the Seahawks are now on a 3-game winning streak. They've won 3 in a row. They are sitting at 4-2. Unfortunately for the Seahawks, the Rams won. So the Seahawks are still a half game behind the Rams. And I was really rooting for the Cardinals to win that one. Now, I'm not necessarily sure how the Cardinals season is really going to unfold now because Carson Palmer broke his arm. And he's supposed to be out about 8 weeks, or they're guessing for him. So at least that's what the ESPN app told me. And, I mean... So in my last video, I talked about how the Cardinals are probably going to be in the race with the Seahawks and the Rams towards the finish line. I don't know if the Cardinals are really going to be in that race anymore, and I kind of feel bad for them because they have a talented roster. Really, they're old though. I mean, I think the Cardinals' biggest problem is as talented as they are, they're really old. I think they have like the oldest roster in the league as far as average goes. So they're an old team. The Rams though, Jared Goff's looking good. Obviously, room for improvement, but it's only his second season, so. I think the Rams are for real. So throughout the rest of the season, the Seahawks are going to have to win those division games. The Seahawks are 2-0 so far in their division. They beat the Niners and they beat the Rams once. So with 4 more division games to go, the Seahawks have to be able to close those out. Next week, the Seahawks play the Texans in Seattle. That should be a fun one. J.J. Watt's not playing, so the pass rush shouldn't be as bad as it would have. I remember in my prediction video, I was talking about how that pass rush with the Seahawks offensive line might be really worrisome. And I'm not saying I'm glad for J.J. Watt's injury or anything. I'm not. It's not good for any player to get injured. But the fact that J.J. Watt will not be playing for the Texans in that game is probably going to make it a little bit easier for our offensive line to be able to give Russell Wilson some time. So I like what I saw from the Seahawks offense. Even in the first half, there was some missed opportunities. The play calls looked like they're getting better. At first, when the Seahawks first took a 10-7 lead, I thought they were trying to get all conservative again, and I was like, oh my god, please just keep your foot on the gas. And then they did, and they kept going. And I think as long as the Seahawks keep playing like this, and it'd be nice for them to play it in the first half too, because I think for all us fans, we sit there and we're near death sometimes. Our hearts just really pounding because that's just Seahawks football though. It's the way it's been ever since I've been a fan. And I've been a fan of this team since like 2005, and especially the last like 7 to 8 years. It's been that way. But the Seahawks won. That's all that really matters. Is that they came away with the victory, and it wasn't as ugly as a game as I predicted. I predicted it was either going to be 21-20 or 20-17, and it was 24-7. So the Seahawks did a great job. The Seahawks defense obviously looks amazing. I'm hoping that the Seahawks running game can start to get a little bit better. But it was a fun game to watch. Jimmy Graham did end up redeeming himself. He had 3 catches for 50-some yards. But like I said, still that drop touchdown pass and the other big drop pass that was going for like 20 to 30 yards downfield. You gotta catch those, and we're not used to seeing those as Seahawks fans. As much crap as people like to give us about the Seahawks receivers, the one thing the Seahawks receivers have always been great at is catching the balls. Whether it be Doug Baldwin, Paul Richardson, it doesn't matter who it is. I mean, Jermaine Kearse would drop some every now and then, but he's not even on the team anymore. But it's just one of those things when you see someone drop a pass, you're like, oh my god! Like Seattle's receivers just don't do that. It's because when they actually are getting the ball thrown to them, it's like, oh my god, I have to catch it. So I'm glad the Seahawks won. They face the Texans this next week. That's going to be a good one. I'll make a preview for that video up on Wednesdays, like I do every Wednesdays, put the previews up. But anyway, let me know what you guys think about this game. Was your heart pounding as fast as mine was? And I'll be honest with you. Like I said, I think the offense is starting to find its footing. And I think when Doug Baldwin was, getting angry and kind of pushing Tom Cable around, why I didn't really like that. I mean, I've since watched why Doug Baldwin did it and stuff. And I think that's what the Seahawks need. I think they needed that fire, some of that energy there. And I think that really got them fired up. So I'm really looking forward to next week. They're back in Seattle. They've only had 2 home games this year, and they've already played 4 away games. So this is only going to be the 3rd home game this upcoming weekend. And I think the Seahawks can pull it off and go to 5-2. So it's going to be a race to the finish with the Rams here. Anyway, thank you all for watching the video, and go Hawks.